You may have known about this saint. Her name is Saint Rosa da Viterbo in my new video. Subscribe to my channel to see more stuff and new updates as well. Saint Rose of Viterbo was a poor teenage girl from medieval Italy who became famous for her bold faith, care for the poor, preaching in the streets, and courage in times of political conflict. Even though she died very young, her life left a deep mark on the church and the city of Viterbo. She was born around 1233 in Viterbo. Her parents are humble, deeply religious, and poor family. Her birth name was actually Rosa, but Rose. She grew up in a difficult time. Italy was torn by conflict between supporters of the Pope and the supporters of the Holy Roman Emperor. Even as a child, Rose became known for deep prayer, helping poor people, a strong devotion to Jesus and the Virgin Mary. People said she was unusually spiritual for her age and loved silence, prayer, and acts of sacrifice. According to tradition, when Rose was still very young, she felt called to live a holy life inspired by Francis of Assisi. She became connected to the Third Order of Saint Francis, today now called the Secular Franciscans, choosing a life of prayer while still living in the world. By around age 10 or 12 years old, she began speaking publicly in the streets of Viterbo. Her message was simple: turn back to God, pray, repent, and seek peace. For a young girl in the 1200s to preach publicly was extraordinary, and many people listened. At the time, Viterbo was caught in political struggles between supporters of the Pope, supporters of the Emperor Frederick II. Rose strongly supported loyalty to the papacy and publicly criticized imperial influence in the city. Because of this, she and her father were forced into exile and had to leave Viterbo. They took refuge in nearby towns, including Soriano nel Cremona. Wrong question. Including Soriano nel Cimino. Tradition also says Rose predicted the approaching death of Emperor Frederick II shortly before he died in 1250. One of the best known stories about Rose says that in a nearby town she confronted a woman accused of sorcery and to prove God's protection stood unharmed near or in flames for hours. This story comes from later traditions about her life and is treated by historians more as devotional tradition than firmly documented history. Rose wanted to enter the community of the poor Clares, but she was reportedly refused because her family was poor and could not provide the required dowry for admission. She accepted this disappointment peacefully and continued a hidden life of prayer at home. Tradition says she predicted, "You will accept me after my death." Later this became meaningful in a surprise way. Rose died very young on March 6, 1251, probably around 17 or 18 years old, in her family home in Viterbo after suffering illness. Medieval tradition long believed tuberculosis caused her death, though modern examination of her remains suggested a rare congenital condition may have contributed. After her death, devotion to Rose spread quickly because many believers reported favors and miracles connected to her intercession. A few years later, Pope Alexander IV ordered her remains transferred to the monastery of the Poor Clares in Viterbo, the very place that had once refused her entrance. The convent was eventually renamed in her honor. Many Catholics saw this as the fulfillment of her earlier words. She was canonized in 1457 by Pope Calixtus III. Her feast day is celebrated on September 4th with Saint Rosalia, with none other than Saint Rosalia, same day, the feast. In Viterbo and Franciscan traditions, March 6th is also linked to her death, which is also another feast, Saint Colette's feast day. She is the patron saint of florists and flower growers, among others. Every year in Viterbo, a huge illuminated tower called the Macchiena di Santa Rosa is carried through the city streets in her honor. A centuries-old tradition, Saint Rose of Viterbo's story stands out because she was young but fearless, poor but spiritually influential, rejected but later honored, quiet in life yet remembered for centuries. Her life carries a simple message. Faith, courage, and kindness do not depend on age or status. So, Viterbo University has located in Wisconsin, USA. So thank you.